Hey everyone, welcome back to the Soundbyte. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be jumping into a bit of Skid Row, 80s and 90s or early 90s hard rock band, with the song called Big Guns, which is the opening track to their debut album. Another band that I got into quite early on. The debut album was one that I first got into back in the 89, I think it was, and yeah, I was just a kid at the time, and just thought, yeah, this is my kind of thing. I liked it, and the one thing about Skid Row as well is that they were kind of a little different. They were lumped into the hair metal stuff and all that kind of thing in the 80s, but they were kind of a little bit different. They were a little bit more like Guns N' Roses, and as far as they were just a bit more street level, I guess. They didn't sort of dress up and do all that kind of stuff. They were more about just play some music and just wear what we sort of wear on stage, and that was it. They were kind of a little bit on the grunge side of things as far as that was concerned. And that was one of the things that I liked about them, because there were some glam bands that I did like when I was a kid, but I did prefer those bands that were a little bit more real, the Gunners, Skid Row, those kind of bands. So I've always been a big fan, and so Big Guns was my first. Well, I guess it was the I Remember You was the first song that I heard, and that was the first song that a lot of people heard. The big song that they put out, that represented the album to some degree. But like many albums, there were songs later on that you find it, you discover, and you go, oh, this is even better. I like this more. So, and Big Guns is one of those songs. The intro to the album kind of set the tone for the rest of the, really, for Skid Row for the rest of their career. It kind of they had a lot of big shoes to fill after that first album, and they did pretty well with the second and third album. But that first one, a lot of people go, yeah, that's a hard one to top. And Big Guns was certainly one of the first ones to kind of set that game-changing level that they had at the time. So let's get into it. Big Guns by Skid Row. Just pause it there, and already just has that big anthemic sort of sound that a lot of the 80s bands had. So definitely the first album for sure was time-stamped quite early on. It definitely had a lot of the 80s sort of sound. But the band did quickly move on to the second and third album that where Slave to the Grind and Subhuman were kind of more heavier and a bit more modern sound, a bbit more grungier, I guess. Maybe they were trying to fit into what was going on at that time, but all I knew is that they were sort of shifting away from that 80s sound a little bit. Right off the bat, Sebastian Bach, one of the greatest singers in rock as well. His voice just unmistakable, and just you identify it straight away. Yeah, I've got a little bit of story to share as well about this track as well. I'll sort of get into it a bit later on, but let's get back into it again with Big Guns.
Freaks are on a roller skate. He said he had the key to heaven's gate. Wait for the movie, cause I've been there before. I know that like is a battle, love is war. She got the big guns, playing in my heart. Bang, bang, shooting like a firing squad. Big guns, took me by surprise. She got my love and reaching for the sky. She got the big guns, pointing in my heart. Bang, bang,
Just quickly there as well. Just all the little guitar parts that, I mean, I kind of feel that the guitarists in the band, are a little underrated as far as like just all the little things. A lot of the 80s rock bands, the musicianship, really is just, I think, underrated and kind of understated, really. Because people kind of look at those bands and kind of see just the visual side of things, but really they were just some really talented guitar players in that genre. Um, Skid Row were no different. I mean, all those sort of squeals and stuff like that. It was just, I don't know. I understand why a lot of the 80s rock fans didn't like the grunge stuff because of the fact that the music just had that fun aspect that was not in the grunge stuff, you know? So, it's weird though, because I was kind of caught in the middle between those two. So I kind of like both. But I remember this distinctly. There was just like there was two sides to that whole thing, you know, and it's just it made me laugh. I don't know, because I just one of those people that just like both of it, you know. So so sometimes you get caught in the middle like that. It's funny. That big ending was such a big thing in the 80s. That big ending, you know. There you go. Skid Row with Big Guns off their debut self-titled album that was released in 1989. It's just a kid when that came out, but I remember it very, very well. Speaking of that, I remember going to a house party once. Not long after, I guess it was probably a year or so after the album came out, and I remember I was wearing this Skid Row shirt, and it was actually the Big Guns shirt at the time, and there was a picture of this, cartoonish caricature woman, and I think she was holding some guns or whatever like that, and I remember getting a lot of comments about it, especially as a kid, when you're wearing something like that, it kind of stands out, So I remember telling that story to Dave Sabo, one of the guitar players for Skid Row. I remember interviewing him a few years back and telling him that story, and yeah, he had got a good laugh about it because it's one of those things where everyone has that kind of story of how you discover a band, and a lot of times, sometimes it's like the first time you hear about a band is sometimes from a T-shirt. And I guess I was one of the kids that was wearing a t-shirt that a lot of kids in that party then discovered the band. So I kind of, which is part of the, thing about wearing a t-shirt is you kind of spreading the word about the band, I guess, to some degree. So it's funny how, because a lot of times that's happened to me where I've discovered a band through someone wearing a t-shirt or whatever. And I remember that was one of the few instances where I was wearing a shirt that everyone kind of noticed and went, "Oh yeah, who's that band?" kind of thing. So, and then, like I said, like the band was really new at the time. It's hard to imagine. And again, showing my age there a little bit. But it was only about a year or so after the first album came out. So not everyone had caught on to the band yet, and there was no internet and stuff like that. So the only way you discovered music back then was through radio and magazines, but a lot of it was just word of mouth. I mean, it's how I discovered Skid Row initially. It's how I've discovered so many bands when I was a kid. So, word of mouth is still a big thing these days, but it's not as what it used to be. I'm always curious as well, and let me know in the comments, how do you discover bands these days? Because I've heard some people say, oh, it's Spotify. And then YouTube might, give you some, related, searches and things like that. I've never discovered bands through those platforms, even to this day. So I don't know where people discover bands. It's for me, it's still word of mouth and press releases the bands put out, social media, things like that, I guess. So So there you go. Anyway, the debut album from Skid Row, and that was the track Big Guns. Thanks for tuning in as always, and please subscribe if you haven't, and follow us on our social media. All the links and everything is in our description down below. And any suggestions, let me know. Just comment below or email me or whatever it is, and I will take a look at it and we can put it out there. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.